Hi everyone, I hope you're doing fantastic. In today's video, we're going to be creating this pricing component in Figma. We're going to also use component properties to create a component that is really easy to use. So as you can see, we have these controls here where we can hide the badge, we can hide this footnote, we can change the button, and we can also additionally change the badge to a different component. So in this video, I'm going to explain how to build this from scratch, how to prepare all of these in Figma, and then we're also going to do I will just show you an example of usage of such a component on your website. And finally, if you'd like to save some time and just download this thing and use it in your project right away, make sure to check the link in the description. That will take you to my store. Let's get started with this component. First thing I'm gonna do is just use the text tool to sketch out some very basic elements. So we're definitely gonna have to include the price. That makes sense, right? Then we'll need to have some kind of a headline. So I'm gonna just type in a headline. We're gonna have some description and bullet points. And finally, we're gonna have a call to action, meaning a button, with a tiny footnote right below the call to action. That's it. We're gonna also have a badge, an optional element at the very top. So these are our elements. Now we need to actually prepare the stuff. So we'll have a big dollar amount right here, right? So that makes sense. So that's the main thing, how much it costs. Maybe we want to make the dollar sign a bit smaller. So let's say like this. We also might want to actually do some kind of footnote right below the dollar amount to say that this is going to be, for example, per month, something like that. Right? This is not going to be heavy. I'm using the Avenir Next font, and then of course the headline. So the headline is definitely going to be very prominent, but not as prominent as the dollar amount. So why don't we go for like 16, and we're going to have to change the size of this to 32. This will be maybe 16 as well. We need to do this because there needs to be some kind of information hierarchy, right? So the most important things need to be the biggest and the most prominent, whereas what is not so important, some kind of details, that's not going to be very visually prominent. So this description, that's going to be, let's say, demi-bold. Now that I think about it, we should make this even bigger, which means this is going to be like 36. So this is, I think this works. So we have 30 with the main headline. Then we're gonna go for 16 with the smaller one with the description, and that's gonna be also similar for our bullet points. So that's gonna be bullet 1, bullet 2, and bullet 3. So these are our bullet points. Then we need definitely a button. So I'm gonna use also the heavy font weight. I'm gonna add auto layout, increase the padding, add a fill. It's gonna be black actually. This is gonna be. I'm purposefully creating this UI or this component in black and white. If we want to add some colors, in my opinion, that's most practical to do at the very end of your workflow, because when assembling stuff like this, it's important to pay attention to visual proportions and just the information in its purest form. So black and white, that it's great for that. So that's why I'm just using black and white here. And this footnote, that's going to be 12 pixels, right? So there's going to be 12 pixels. It's going to have some letter spacing so that you can read it easily, demi-bold probably, and then also there's going to be some kind of footnote right beneath, let's say, per month, right? We're going to name this button, and then we're going to have some kind of badge. Yes, very important. There's going to be a badge. This badge also probably bold. It's definitely going to be all caps. It's also going to be wrapped in an auto layout. We will add some padding, but these paddings will be smaller comparatively to the button. So we're going to say badge. This is our badge. We're going to add a fill around corners and make this look reasonable. I would go for a very subtle stroke like this. So this right here can be our badge, or at least the starting point for our badge. Right, so here we go. This is our pricing, the structure of our pricing component, which is going to extend this description so that it's going to say description, a few words or sentences about the pricing lorem ipsum, right? I'm going to select this option right here and then just change the size to this. Perfect. Let's now split this into groups. So the first group, that's going to be this footnote and the dollar amount. So I'm going to select both of these and Shift A to add this to an auto layout. I'm going to name this auto layout price. I'm going to also make sure it's aligned to the left for now. There's going to be actually negative spacing because you can see that the total height of this text object is, there's a significant space and we want to remove that, which means we're going to have to set this to, this spacing to negative. I don't know, -10 maybe. Then another group that's going to be actually also wrapped inside an auto layout. This group is going to be called copy, and we're going to press enter and then make sure all of these are fill container so that this can happen, right? It's basically responsive. Then the last group, that's going to be the call to action. You know, this can say like cancel anytime, right? To really drive the point home that, you know, you're safe giving this company money. And right now we're also going to select the price, press enter, and then fill container right here. Maybe even we're going to add headline and description into a separate group or a nested group. We're going to call this headline and description and just press enter again and make sure there's fill container so that we can again adjust the spacing between these two independent of the total spacing between this and the bullet points. Right? Cool. I think we are at this point, we are ready to select all of these, and then press Shift A to add all of this into an auto layout. Now this auto layout, I'm going to create some background, so it's going to be white for now. We're going to add some padding, horizontal and vertical, and we're just gonna select this whole thing, press enter, deselect the badge, and just make sure again that it's fill container. Right? We want to make sure that when we do this, exactly my point. So we need to go one level deeper and then fill container everywhere. Everywhere should be fill container. Where is desirable though? With the button, I don't think that's necessarily desirable, but we need to make sure all of these are fill container, because when we do this, it becomes responsive, right? We could maybe, the button, I mean, that's up to you, right? We could make this extend all the way. You could make it look like this. That way the button is responsive. But actually, yeah, let's keep it that way. Let's keep it that way. I'm not sure if we're gonna center all of this, but maybe we will. I'm gonna decide later. With the badge, I'm gonna select the badge within the auto layout and press absolute position. Right? Absolute position means that it's going to be placed independently of other auto layout elements, and we're going to place this badge so that its center aligns perfectly with the top edge of the overall interface, the overall component, sorry. Next thing, we're going to make sure this is being anchored to left and top, which is the case now, brilliant, but this means that when the size of this component changes, this is going to stay in place, because if we anchored this to the bottom, this would happen, right? You can see it's moving. We don't want that. We want this badge to be glued to the left and the top side so that it can always stay right here. Right now we're going to select this, add some rounding, and I'm just playing with the spacing. Just adjusting stuff. This is not the most critical of steps. So now that I look at this, I think this dollar amount should be even bigger, right? Don't you think? Because that's the whole point of this component, is to show the price. So I would even push this far to really have one really prominent element like this. That would be just right. So you can immediately see that this is the main thing, this is why you're here, and then the rest, that's just details, right? So by using size, you can very easily put emphasis on elements, and you should definitely be doing that. So different sizes whenever you'd like to kind of change the emphasis of elements. I'm just gonna change the top padding only to 20. and call this whole component pricing component. Now, the next thing we're going to do is copy this badge and create a separate component from this, right? So we have badge that's going to say last chance, and we're going to have another component, detach the component, and then turn that into a component again and call this badge 2 or just badge 30% off. This one is going to say 30% off. This badge is gonna say last chance, and then we're gonna create one more that will say 50% off, 50% off. So we have 3 badges. Now we actually will use an instance of the badge and just replace that badge with replace the current badge with this new one. Again, absolute position, align to the top, make sure it's constrained to left and top, and then move it like this. Next thing we're gonna do is just take this button, and we're gonna do something similar with the button. So we're gonna turn this button into a component, and this one will be called, for example, button, which is gonna be a button, good old, regular, basic, black and white button. And we're gonna use an instance of this, copy that into this auto layout, and remove the old one and make sure this says fill container, right? So this will make more sense later, but for now, just go with me and you'll see why we're doing all of this. So right now we are ready to turn this into a component. I'm gonna select the pricing component and then go over here to turn this into a pricing component. And now we're gonna actually start with creating component properties. So the first thing is gonna be the badge. We're gonna go to layer here and we're gonna create a Boolean property. This Boolean property is gonna be called show badge, right? It's gonna be either true or false. Create. Next thing, we're not gonna create one of these for the price because the price is gonna be always there. The same goes for the button. So the minimal use case here is you're gonna get a component with a headline, with the price and with the button. You can't go simpler than that. But with all the other elements, with this description, with this headline, with these bullet points, with this footnote, all of this can be chosen to be featured in this component instance, in an instance of this component when it's finished, right? So I'm just gonna select each of these and go to layer here and again apply a Boolean property, and I'm gonna create a new property, and this one is gonna be called show price detail, right? Let's call this price detail. And same here with the headline, create property, show headline. And then again with the description, create new property, show description, create bullet points, right? Layer, create property, show bullet points, create. And finally, this footnote right here, we're gonna say show call to action footnote, right? Create property. Why have I done this? So if you go to assets now and actually use an instance of this pricing component, you can see all of these right here. You can see all of these. We can now turn all of these elements on and off. We can remove the price detail. We can hide the headline, hide the description, hide the bullet points, and hide this footnote. There's a problem. There's a problem that we're gonna have to fix. So you can see that it has hidden all of these bullet points and these things right here, right? But the overall copy auto layout has stayed in place. I'm not sure why it doesn't just shrink to 0, but we're gonna fix this. It seems to me right now, I'm just guessing, right? So this is a part of the process. Sometimes you encounter mistakes or unexpected obstacles, so this is one of them. I didn't know that this is gonna happen, but anyway, we're gonna have to fix this problem. It seems to me now that in order to be able to hide this, we're gonna have to decide that there's gonna be a situation where this whole thing disappears. And it seems to me that the best way to do this is basically say that if the headline is not visible, then none of this is going to be visible, right? So none of the headline and the description. You can see that if we actually make the headline visible, then it shrinks to the original size. So when that disappears, it just reverts back to this size, right? I'm gonna select this copy and then go to layer, apply Boolean property, and we're gonna tie this to show headline, right? You can see that it's immediately fixed. So unfortunately, there is a trade-off where we cannot show only the bullet points or only the description, right? Without the headline. So if we hide the headline, we hide this whole thing. If there's somebody that actually knows how to fix this, how to find a workaround for this, let me know in the comments. I might be missing something. But we can hide the description, we can hide the bullet points, but we have to keep the headline in order for this to be visible now. Otherwise, it doesn't work, as you have seen. So that's unfortunately a trade-off that we have to make. But anyway, at this point, we get a flexible component that is responsive like this, where we can hide the badge, we can hide the price footnote, we can hide the call to action footnote right here, we can hide, for example, this and this. It's very flexible, right? Now we just need to take this one step further and connect these two components, these two nested components, so that you can switch those easily when doing it right here, right? So I'm going to create another button, attach, and then create another component. This button is going to be green. This is going to be a green button. So this component name is going to reflect that. It's going to say button underscore green. What we're going to do now is select the button within the pricing component. We're going to go here to create an instance swap property. I'm going to click that and I'm going to say right here, button type. Which button is that going to be? Create property. And something similar with the badge, create new property. That's going to be badge type, create. So what happens now is when we show the badge, we get an option to select the badge type. So this is the instance, right? This is the component, and this is an instance of the component. So we have a badge visible. We can go here to select a different badge. We're going to choose an instance that says 50% off, and it immediately switched to a different kind of badge, the 50% off. That is also thanks to the structure of this whole thing. We can now, for example, change the color of the background to make this, for example, yellow, which I do not recommend, but we can do that. This looks better. It's going to be reflected right here, right? So thanks to these components right here and the structure of this, it becomes very flexible, right? You can also create your own button right here, and then just from here you can select a different button. While we're at that, I'm going to show you how to swap the button. So button type, again, I'm going to search for the green one, and it's green. Right? And because we set this to fill container, everything is also responsive. We maybe want to show the bullet points, the call to action footnote, and maybe hide the description, whatever. We can choose our very concrete use case for this. And we can also hide and show the badge, right? So now let's actually take a look at how this could be used in practice, right? So we have a website. We're going to name this frame website. This is going to be light gray generic background. It's going to be 1400, and we will use a component. We will use an instance of this pricing component, and then we're just going to click and drag, Alt or Option, click and drag to create two copies of these, right? We're going to select all of these, Shift A, press Enter, fill container, reduce the spacing to 24, and we get this really cool thing. So you get three flexible whole group of pricing components that you can use on our website, right? So this is one of the use cases that you can use this component for, right? You could have website that says our pricing, and there you go, you have your basis for your pricing website. Easily customizable and easy to use. Maybe this one, maybe both of these, right, are gonna have a default button, but again, maybe we want to highlight this middle option. Maybe we want to hide the badge with these two, and you can immediately see that this, when the user is going to scroll through the page and they're going to see this, they're going to probably pay the most attention to the middle one. So you can use that to your advantage. And of course, you could be I mean, this doesn't make any sense if we keep the pricing. So let's just set this to 19, 49, and 89. I don't know, right? Maybe we wanna, for all of these, gonna show price detail per month, right? And there you go. There you go. So this is how you build a pricing component and how you actually can use it. And maybe what is really cool about this is once you actually start building stuff like this, you will then be able to easily make changes, right? I can, for example, if I don't like the way that this footnote looks, I think it should be gray, right? Instead of black. I'm gonna select it here and then just make it gray, light gray like this. What happens? All of these update. Super easy to use. So that's why you should always, when building, especially when building things that scale or that are supposed to scale, definitely use components, instances wherever you can. It's also the reason why there are whole design systems. Maybe we don't want to say 50% off, but we want to say most popular, right? Most popular. And what you get is just, I mean, this type of thing, this is something you see everywhere. It's just everywhere. You have two options on the sides, one in the middle that's just the most highlighted to you. And this is how to do flexible, responsive component like this in Figma. So if you'd like to use this in your own project, check the link in the description. That will take you to my store. And thank you for watching. If you have watched this all the way through, thank you very much. And if you'd like to see more stuff like this, leave a like or even subscribe for more Figma tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.